And who better to try and make sense of some of the things that we're seeing and many of the things that we are not seeing than a soldier officer who has served on the ground in those areas. Lieutenant General Syed Hasnain is one of India's most respected observers and commentators on defense affairs. He's been a corps commander of the 15 Corps here in Srinagar. He's commanded a brigade in Uri, and he has served all along the line of control. General Hasnain, good to have you. Thank you very much for being with me on this special broadcast of India Matters from Kashmir tonight. I've just returned, General, from Kupwara. A couple of days ago, I was in Uri, where I visited, the army camp, where you served and you commanded as well. The situation right now along the line of control, General Hasnain, is tense. It seems to be escalating with each passing day. That appears to be front and center as far as the military interface between the two countries is concerned, post what happened in Pahalgam. What is your reading of this, sir?
Shiv, thank you, first of all. I listened to your entire report. And I must compliment you for having visited all those places on the ground. It's very important that you have a feel of the ground before we speak about a thing like this. Obviously, Pahalgam was something very, very serious. It went over the top completely, in fact, beyond Uri, even beyond Pulwama, because of the nature of strike. I mean, it was against absolutely innocent tourists, and this was attempted. An attempt was made to try and profile people by their religion, and a message was being sent out to India at that particular time. That's about Pahalgam proper. But now on the situation, how it is progressively moving forward. Every time this kind of a major problem happens, you will find the effect, the impact of it is first of all on the line of control. And it's primarily, it starts with the areas where you are, which you were reporting from just now. I am glad to see that so far it doesn't seem that it has progressed beyond small arms. Otherwise, you find that it manages to ratchet up progressively over the couple of days. But it all also depends on what is the kind of confidence that the Pakistani troops have on the other side. At the moment, I can tell you that it must be just fire for fire, small arms against small arms. We are not going to escalate the situation on the line of control. Our intention is just to keep it stable, keep it going at the moment. Whatever happens, we have to stop the infiltration. We must not allow infiltration to take place. The area of Tutmari Gali, the area of Machhal, the area around Tangdhar are very, very vulnerable. You just mentioned all the names. Athmukam, Jura, and places like that. These are the places from where launch pads, from where lots and lots of terrorists move in, primarily into the Rajwar forest, the Hafruda forest, the area of Lolab, and then into the Bandipur area. This is all the areas of North Kashmir which get populated from this direction. Not that the Indian Army is incompetent, but you yourself would realize that the night is such, you can put out your hand and you cannot even feel anyone going out past your hand at night. It's that dark in that area. True. There is a LC fence, and the fence helps tremendously. It gives you a kind of a line of focus and prevents terrorists from getting across so easily, although it's not something which is impenetrable. So these are the dynamics of the line of control which continue to exist. You will find that every time infiltration takes place, there are indicators you get. The firing starts out there. You also start getting to know about this because parties start moving into the Hafruda forest. Terrorist groups start moving into the Hafruda forest from your internal areas to act as reception parties. This is something which happens inevitably. What will probably happen next is that if the situation continues to progressively ratchet up, you will get mortar fire and perhaps artillery fire. You already mentioned that Chinese guns
in fact, General Hasnain, that's right. Yeah. I wanted to ask you about that specifically because, we learned that Chinese SH-15 artillery guns, heavy artillery guns, self-propelled, have been pushed by the Pakistani army, from, backward areas to the LC. So maybe they're preparing for a higher caliber sort of escalation. And I wanted your larger reading of Pakistan and how it's been reacting. There are all sorts of reports of them scrambling, moving forces from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa to the LC, all in a kind of scramble because they're not sure what India is going to do next. There's a great deal of strategic ambiguity that seems to have guided Pakistan's actions. How are you reading that, sir?
Shiv, till 1989, Pakistan used to have a division called the 19th Division, which is in Jhelum now at the moment. This division used to be strung along the line of control. In 1989, they pulled it back and made it into a reserve formation. Now, every time that something happens in the valley, you will find inevitably 1 to 2 brigades of this division will move into the depth areas, particularly along the Jhelum Valley, in the area of Pag, or perhaps in the area of Chakoti and beyond that. So this is obviously something which has happened, I'm quite sure, because every time any incident has happened, this area gets a depth population of more troops. Now, one thing is very important. Pakistan, the way it is responding is obviously showing a degree of, a kind of a problem that they seem to be completely going berserk on trying to understand what India will do. And I'm so glad that you and NDTV have chosen not to talk about this at all. This is our prime duty to make sure we don't talk about this. But they should remain on tenterhooks as to what really finally happens. And this is one important aspect because given Pakistan's economy, a long mobilization is something that they cannot afford. Moving more and more formations into Kashmir like this, the one you mentioned from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa into this area or any other areas to increase the density of troops is all given at a cost, and the cost of the economy itself. So this is something important to remember. Also remember, Pakistan may be showing some kind of a bravado with the amount of ammunition it may be firing, but we are well aware that Pakistan's ammunition went to Ukraine some time ago. We are all aware of that. It wanted to sell that ammunition for a couple of billion dollars to make up for its foreign exchange reserves. And today it is low on ammunition. So Pakistan will probably not be able to afford this kind of a thing beyond a certain level and beyond a certain stage. This is something that we have to be mindful of also.
Another question that I've been getting right through my 8 days so far here in Kashmir, General Hasnain, on a daily basis has been, how difficult is it to find the terrorists who, murdered those people in Pahalgam? And I want to ask you that because, you've been a soldier officer here, you've been on counter-terror operations, you know these forests, you know the terrain. Explain to our viewers why 9 days later, it is still so difficult to find these terrorists. They've made their getaway. They've gotten out of Pahalgam. We don't know where they are. We do know operations are on to find them. Why does it take so long? How difficult is it to find terrorists in the hinterland, sir?
1995, Shiv, the Al-Firan also kidnapped 5 tourists, foreign tourists, and took them into the Warwan Valley. Now, most of our viewers won't know where the Warwan Valley is. It's on the other side of the Kishtwar. There are a number of ranges all along Jammu and Kashmir. The Kishtwar on one side, the Pir Panjal on one side, and the area where you just visited is called the Shamshabari, as you're aware. All these are hugely wooded.
Yes.
They go into about 80, 90, 100 kilometers in length, each of them. To find 2 or 4 or 6 terrorists is like finding a pin in a haystack. We could never locate those 5 tourists who were kidnapped. One of them got beheaded. I was aware that even as late as 1999, I was attempting to try and locate some sources to find out if we could get more information about them from the Warwan Valley. What I can appreciate this time is these terrorists, there are two possible explanations. One is that they were resident on the Pir Panjal since 2023. We've been hearing of these operations at Rajouri, Poonch and Doda. And you are fully aware of the strike which happened last year on the 9th of June, in which 9 pilgrims were killed. These are the kind of terrorists who had penetrated, infiltrated here, led probably by some special forces, elements of the Pakistan SSG. So they are well trained. And it's possible that these are the same terrorists who could have done it, or they're freshly infiltrated terrorists. Either way, as you have very correctly appreciated, a local support, without local support, is never possible for them to survive here. They move from area to area, they can survive on very, very little. Most terrorists that we have killed have only survived on bits and pieces of dry fruit, coconut, or bits and chocolate, nothing more than that. And they can go for hours and days in this kind of a thing. It's water which becomes a problem sometimes, and for that they many times depend on graziers, local graziers who are around that area. Now, for one, I know that Pahalgam has still not got its local graziers. So there's not too much of movement of graziers yet in that area. So there will be obviously some locals who probably have helped them in water and some other refurbishment of resources, etc. And I'm sure the NIA in its investigations will locate them at some stage or the other. But to actually go around patrolling, sending out troops, it's like just hitting out into thin air. But unless you get some specific information, and this information in earlier years used to come by because there was a lot of radio communication and they could be intercepted. Today, the problem is that with mobile communication and with satellite communication, there are all kinds of ways of spoofing. Because of these technologies, it's not easy to be able to get information about the movement of these terrorists. And that's one of the major challenges which the army and the police forces will face out here.
General Hasnain, always a pleasure listening to you help us navigate and understand this unfolding story following the tragedy and the horror of what happened in Pahalgam. It's been 9 days today. The terrorists haven't been apprehended yet. And there is still this great cloud of ambiguity, strategic ambiguity over what India's next move will be. And I promise you once again, that we will not be revealing any operational details. We admire and appreciate your words very much. And I thank you once again, General Hasnain, for sparing the time and being with us on this special broadcast. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.